So where's my script, Scott, what I read?
Ooh, I don't. Give me a second. Yeah.
The roof leak?
Only where I've been having difficulties and have actually 100 times around. That's water heater.
I had water come under my something for the first time ever.
Or I have water pouring in her window, which I've gone and pulled all the trim off. And when they installed it, they never flashed it and caulked it or even secured it. It was just held on by the trim. There are issues around.
Your roof leak? Is your roof leak?
No, I just got a brand new roof put on,
Wow.
a metal roof.
Yeah.
Yeah. My old one would have been, you know, it's kind of a flat roof and I've got like 2 layers of asphalt shingles. And so I was getting a spot and I was bored. It's been a long time since I had that. So my dear wonderful son Tom came, built a new solar ranking, took all the solar panels off the roof, because every time it snowed, you change drive, I go up the ladder and bring the sweet snow. We're getting totally late.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
we moved all of that off, and then I had Rocky Mountain Roofing out of the center. They came kind of like within 5 hours of putting on the metal roof on.
Just right over the shingles.
Yeah, right over the, and it was just roll roofing. So they went right over that. They did a really nice job, very reasonably priced. But what's really strange is now when it rains, it's a whole different sound.
Oh,
Yeah, with the rain hitting the roof.
Yeah.
Wow, what is that? A pebble sitting in the roof or something, so. Does your roof leak?
So,
Your roof
I don't think it did, but I had water come under my door.
No. Yeah. Chair. For the chair, I guess. Yeah, I'm pretty well burned and got little flood ditches here and there. But the flood ditch next to my house, it ran.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Right, good. You coming to the meeting to order?
Today is August 2nd, and the Town of Crestone Board of Trustees meeting is being held both in person and via Zoom. The time is 3:06, and in order to complete the town's business in a timely manner, following procedures will be followed for all town meetings, including those hosted on Zoom. All meeting participants must keep their microphones muted and the videos turned off except during citizens' comment and unless called on to speak by the board. Per the Town of Crestone Board of Trustees procedures and rules of order, section 7.3, we allow 15 minutes total for citizens' comments. During those 15 minutes, speakers will be allowed to speak up to 3 minutes. And after that, they will be informed that their phones will be muted. And before speaking, we ask that all participants state your name and address for the record. If you do have comments that are longer than 3 minutes, or if the time for citizens' comments expired before you had a chance to speak, please send your comments as correspondence to Town Hall, and the board will respond to your letters. We will take citizens' comments again for up to 15 minutes per our procedures. If multiple citizens have the same comments to make, please be brief. And again, should the time allotted for citizens' comments expire before you have a chance to speak, you may submit your comments to town hall to be included as correspondence to the board at the next regular meeting. So, Scott, would you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee, excuse me, trustee Kinney,
Here,
trustee Lakai,
Here.
Mayor Danforth,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
here,
Absent without notice is trustee Benjamin Byer, and absent with notice is trustee Steve Hume. As of yesterday, trustee Dea Shaidi is no longer on the board.
We do have a quorum. And the next item will be approval of the agenda, which I think you all have in front of you. Is there any additions, deletions? Kim?
It's listed as a regular meeting when it's a special meeting.
Oh, sorry about that. I did change that on the postings,
Thank you.
just not on your version.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda submit as amendment, well, it's a, as we're seeing it correctly.
Also move.
Is there a second?
second,
Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, not nay, ayes have it. That brings us to citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens in the room who would like to speak? No. Do we have any citizens attending via Zoom who would like to speak? Please hold up your hand. Hearing none, seeing none. We'll close citizens' comments and proceed to item number 4, discussion on action items to approve the draft supplemental budget for public review. Comments, questions?
do we have a printout of that?
And I've got a couple more paper copies if anybody else wants one in front of them. I'll just give them.
So I'd like to ask Lisa if she made those changes that we requested at the last meeting.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
You could if it was placed in that way.
My microphone does
So
not
is it
work.
the owl was working or?
No,
Nah, nothing's working.
there we go. So I'd just like to ask our treasurer if she made the changes that we requested at the last meeting.
I did, I went through and used the worksheet I had prepared, which was the 2 times the 6 months. That's part of the reason for the change in format that you see is because I went directly from that report and created so that our budget now matches our chart of accounts that we get every month, which makes it easier for the budget versus actuals. So the 2 changes had to do with the split for the water operator. I also did that, and then when I was going through, I ended up reducing the hydrant maintenance fee because I had doubled it in the worksheet, but that's an annual billing, so I took that back to what we had actually billed for this year and not doubled it. I think that was the only thing.
So did you include some recommendations we made for putting down to bid the expense per tree weed pruning by Public Works?
We didn't discuss
vote.
that.
That
didn't
that was an
discuss that.
idea that was.
But all I said, all I asked was that if she put it in, I didn't say that we had officially adopted it.
Yeah.
I was just asking.
I'm assuming, you know, that those kinds of adjustments. I mean, if you go with what you're talking about with staffing, which you have a draft of. It would be covered only, they wouldn't be treated as employees, it would be a change between line items.
So
And I
potential
think-
saving, money saving, but we don't know that.
Right,
Right, but I also feel too that where we are in this date of this year. With something like this going out for bid, we would be looking at having this contract start with next spring or next year.
well, unless it's cleaning up in the fall
Right,
for leaves or we don't
Right.
know.
but we still have to put it out for bid and go through that process and determine what the scope of work actually is.
Right.
So,
But yeah, I mean, it's all things we should be looking at. Cause there needs to be a draft budget in October, right, for 2024. Which is not as far away as you would think. Or hope. So again, you know, I guess just make sure everybody's clear on the process, so. This is a proposed budget based on the first 6 months of 2023. So. You know, the room for adjustment or latitude there is as we go through month by month. What gets approved to be paid. You know, what the board looks at, and if they see there's an overage or they have a concern. But I think Scott and myself and Miguel are all pretty clear. About what the goals are for the board. Because I realize this budget is really tight and is not a good long-term strategy. But there's still some things out there, like particularly for the water and sewer proprietary fund. The water rate study, I mean, you're still in the reality that you're paying more to the Baca Water and Sand for sewer treatment than you're billing your sewer customers.
and that needs to be.
That needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
You know, and the water rates, I mean, we have more information than we did a year ago. Emily pulled some reports this morning. So. You know, we're in a better position. I haven't really been involved in the water rate study, but I think Scott and Miguel are doing a good job. Of staying on top of that.
So this is July now, almost August.
It is August, it's August 2nd.
Okay, Earth to kill them, I'm sorry, I didn't turn one again. So we're now August and we will be looking working on our next year's budget in October.
Well, we'll be working on it, it has to be presented to the board and available. With a notice of public hearing on October 15th. The
Okay,
hearing is not on October 15th, we have to publish a notice. By October 15th.
So really here, coming right up at us, like in September, we're really gonna be doing a lot of really preliminary budget work
Right,
for the next year.
well, and I think you're in a better shape. I mean, looking at these actual numbers. You know, we'll have a better idea. Looking at what we might need for 2024.
Okay.
And some of the suggestions you made, we'll know if any of them are working or feasible. I mean, it'd be nice to think you can just go out and hire a landscaper, but. You know, I hear from people all the time, hiring people to do odd jobs is kind of a difficult thing.
So by September, we will again be having moved forward in our budget. We should be having more information on a real study coming back in us. We'll have a good handle of where we are at with our sales tax and how that's going by the time we get to September, certainly by the time we get to October. And so this budget is moving us forward to that direction of where we're at.
Right. I would hope that we all learn things working through this process.
Absolutely.
So I think other than that, I don't really, I mean, you have your notes. Scott and I worked on it more, but Scott gave me a good read.
So with all the work that we've done, and I think last meeting especially, we did a really good amount of work on getting as close to it as we possibly can go.
And a lot of it hurts, you know, $1,000 for fuel for public works, I mean, a lot of it hurts. But I think we can adapt, I think we can move forward and learn for the 24 budget. Not page line item by line item, but I think this is getting us at like base zero. And we can work up from here, but at least we have it a little, I mean, the best it's been.
Yeah.
Something to actually look at, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But I think we can adjust it for 24.
That's
I really think we should approve this, get it the motion moving. And
Well, so today what you can do is
just
approve it for the public hearing. And you'll still take comments, and then I'm not sure how long after that. I don't know if we've scheduled a meeting to actually adopt the budget, but.
I know we scheduled for the public hearing.
Yeah.
Like, we got the public hearing.
So I have
No,
some
no.
questions on that. I noticed that in the revised budget, the total of employee personnel costs and professional services amounts to 74% of the general fund budget. And in the water and sewer fund, the employee and the personnel costs and professional services are 58% of the total budget. And in the process, because it's reformatted, I'm not sure, but there were things I couldn't find. For instance, little things, big things. You have a category now that says total grant expenditures.
Right.
And has $13,300 and some dollars. Now, we have a current grant from DOLA, for the town hall modification. That is $48,164 with a 1-to-1 match. And actually Scott's working with this company and getting ready to go out for bid. There's a potential it could even amount to more than our grant, but as a minimum, the grant expenditures are not gonna be 13,000. In addition, we have the DOLA grant for the sewer, and that one is kind of still, we're working on what lines are gonna be expanded, what those costs are gonna be. But I cannot understand how our total grant expenditures will only be $13,000.
So what I was working from, and maybe I misunderstood, but when we had the last work session or the last meeting. Was to just go with the things that we had actually spent. And double it, so the 13,000 represents what we have actually paid out on the grants, and I don't recall when the town hall grant expires, is it next year?
End of next year.
End of next year, but Scott and I did talk about it, when I submitted this to him to look at. And he doesn't think realistically that we will be spending any money to complete that town hall project, because we haven't even gotten a bid.
We're getting ready to go out for bid.
Right.
So we're actually, though, what you're doing is putting that into next year's budget rather than this year's budget.
That's what we're thinking, is that would happen in 2024.
But
And that we would also then anticipate, because that's a reimbursement grant, that the revenue would come in 2024. So what that 13,000 represents is what we have spent from the county grants that we have spent so far. And the READY grant, which was the economic development grant.
But that's a rather broad assumption, which you didn't explain in your notes. And I didn't even really understand, because we are gonna work on those sewer line. My understanding is we intend to do that, and there will be expenditures this year. It's
So the
very
sewer line-
likely that there will be expenditures for the town hall modification.
So the sewer line extension is now in the capital projects fund. It's no longer in the sewer fund, so it's right here.
So when you say total grant expenditures.
I was talking about general fund.
Mhm.
That was your first question about, the 13,000 was in the general fund.
Mhm.
And that is from the Ready Grant.
So how
And
much is
from
in the
this-
capital projects?
So at this time, we had $125,000 contract with DOLA for the first excuse me, I think it's 120,000. Or 125,000, and while the total award is 600,000. They're not releasing the rest of those funds until we've completed some steps, like the things that we're going to be getting.
So it is in the budget, it's just under the capital.
So we've already spent 58,000. And so there's $64,060 left, which is listed in the project.
So it's only in the budget to the extent that we've actually spent the money, which has not been how our process has been in the past. I
No,
didn't
this-
understand that.
Right, no, this in the capital projects fund is the balance of what we could spend this year. Which is possible that we would get those studies completed.
So, but then the general fund, it's only, it isn't what the grant is, it's what we spent, so.
Right.
I'm not understanding that exactly.
Well, what we decided with the town hall structure grant. Was all of that was gonna happen in 2024, so we'd include it in that.
I never knew that the board made that assumption. Scott,
Yeah, no, that was my assumption, just based on looking at the calendar of how long.
so what is the grant expiration date
End of next year.
in 2024?
Now, with the budget being a
I
planning
mean, you told me
document.
you were just working with them last week, getting the RFQ ready to go out.
Mhm.
Doesn't sound like it would all be next year.
Yeah, no, it very well may not, with that in mind, maybe we should add some of those grant funds, back into the budget. And then we can, whatever money we do spend out of this year, it's
Well,
budgeted for.
then it's hard for me to understand, I'm not that smart to know that which in the general fund is only what you actually spent, not what the grant is. I'm not used to the capital projects, so I don't understand how much of that to put into grants or. Those are all new things, we didn't really get any explanation for.
I think that the reason that we went off of what has actually been spent for the general fund, was just that like, we took the actual and double them, and so that's how we got to all of those numbers, and I think that you're right, I think there probably should be an amount for that particular project added back into the.
So there were a variety of questions I had, some little, some big, to take a little one. And the actual profit and loss statement that we had, the last item under, Nicolite is so bad. Licenses and fees, permits and fees was for $260 for other license permits and fees. That was an actual cost of $260 on the P&L statement and projected double to be twice that for the total year-end budget. Now, in the new budget that we're looking at, all the other numbers are the same going down that category, except this one isn't there. And I just wondered why it disappeared.
Can you show me?
Yeah, here's the P&L. It's the last one. It says other, it shows actual cost of 260, projected 520 for the year.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. I think you see, looks like I added it. So yeah, that was something I changed. I also changed the marijuana license fee to back to
I
the
just want to
3,000.
focus on this one specifically, since that was a specific question.
Does it look like I have another?
So,
Probably because there wasn't anything in the actual chart of accounts.
well, that's another question, this chart of accounts where before Gwen used to tell us that we couldn't just add accounts and we had to leave the other ones there, and now we add, subtract and change. And I'm
So it's not
not,
a good practice to change them. I will admit that we've had some problems when people are coding the checks. People will say, I didn't know where to put it, so I just created a new account. And that's what creates where you don't have a line item.
yeah, but this is an old line, I don't know that this is a new line item, I don't know, the.
Well, actually, when
different issues.
when it says other, it means it wasn't actually assigned to a category.
Okay.
When it was written.
Well, at any rate, so for instance, tree removal. Tree removal is something that we had budgeted, there was been a recommendation from the tree board outstanding for a couple of years. One of those trees that they recommended removing is actually, I think, fallen down. I don't even see that in the new budget.
So we.
Well, because what you said was to go off of what we actually had spent and double it, and we have spent nothing on tree removal.
But see, I don't understand that because we.
I'm just going by what you guys asked me to do.
So we have and did zero tree removal this year, and we've done zero tree planting this year. Now. Personally, I would like to see there being like $1,000 in there for both tree removing or planting, because we lost 3 trees this year, and I certainly would like to have one of them replanted. The other 2 can wait, but I'm now thinking for myself of those trees. It's late in the year. I would like to put those replacement trees onto next year's budget. So it's too late this year to do it. So the idea of tree removal, I think it's helpful to have that in the budget in case we do need to take down the tree. But she's absolutely right. Going by what we have spent so far this year, we haven't spent anything. And I think if we get to the case that says, okay, we've got a problem over here with the tree and we need to take it down, then I think there's probably other categories that we could look at and say that this actually needs to come out of, such as like our health and safety or general funding for an more of an emergency situation. But if it's better, then I would say let's put in like, 500 or something into tree removal.
So what I'm saying is that for me, that what Lisa's done is following our
What we told her to do,
words,
yeah.
but it represents a significant deviation from how I've ever seen our budget in the past, or I think other budgets where you budget the costs as they will come up over the year. And just because we didn't have a cost in the first 6 months, doesn't mean that there are a variety of costs that may well happen in the next 6 months.
Well,
And originally we did talk about doubling it and adding 25% or something to account for that, and that went away. So for me, this budget is not only difficult to understand, but it's based on an assumption that is total deviation from how we've ever budgeted.
We haven't typically adopted a budget in August. Usually you would have adopted it in December and you'd have a whole year. And so that's
But
one of the
that is the
reasons why this is.
issue that I'm raising, which is you didn't explain that to us, and I admit that that's what we said. We said double it, but. I assumed that you would put that into a budget format and how we've always done it, and not make a gross assumption that we knew what we were doing.
Do never assume that. So I
guess I assumed that you would remember that that was the basis. for what it was.
So, I think the thing that we're really trying to do right now is to make sure we end up with a balanced budget. That is our priority. And I agree with you, there's some things that are budgeted for the year, just because we didn't spend it doesn't mean that it should be removed from the budget. I agree with you.
And the budget's already tight, so I'm not sure how realistic that is.
Right, and so if I would make a suggestion is to put something like $500 for tree removal in there. And then if we find ourselves in a situation, then we do have contingency funds that we can draw on. But normally we would budget 1,000, it's already been more than 6 months. Let's take it back and say, okay, 500. And then if we have a situation we need to, then we can look at the area in our budget where we allow for contingencies to come up. It's just like I would have liked to have seen, we've been running like at least $1,000 for tree planting every year. But we're not have done it this year, we're not planning on doing it this year, there's no need to put it in the budget this year. But for next year's budget, you're gonna see me saying, we've got 3 trees we need to replace, and I'm gonna be asking for that. But the point is right now is we need to get this budget approved realistically. So that we can move forward with having a budget. And then again, we're gonna be looking here in September and in October and looking at the 2024. If we feel like we really need to have some money in on the tree removal, then I would agree with you and say, let's. You know, if we had normally budgeted 1,000 and we're already 7, 8 months now into the year, let's just put 500. Because between now and the end of the year, we might end up having to do that. But I don't see any reason to put the full amount.
So, but that was a small example. Now our sprinkler system, for whatever reason, the reasons hasn't worked well. Like not at all, quite a bit. So our sprinkler, and maybe that includes snow removal and I don't know what all, but at any rate, it was a very low number, way low of what we actually spent because it wasn't working. Now it's working, and so again, only this is a larger amount of money that's going to be reflected in the new budget, which reflects something that happened. And now that's the budget for the year. There are little examples and larger examples. To me, that it's a problem. So and I'm not done.
Yeah.
So Lisa included in every one of our budget meetings just sort of a breakdown about personnel, so you could see what was going on with. And in this last one, that's not there. So we really, now I know that it's whatever we spent, but it's hard to understand since personnel costs are really a large percentage, a larger percentage now than they ever have been. And we don't really have a good way, or maybe I just couldn't figure it out without any the backup information to analyze what all these personnel costs are. I'm not saying that I'm smart enough to understand them, but that's why I asked about, did you do that recommendation for what of our recommendations? You didn't do the recommendations, you just did what we actually wound up telling you. Literally.
Well, what I did was for the personnel was double, and then we shifted the percentage for Miguel. And I didn't really get time to analyze where we were at. Like looking at actual personnel costs for the 6 months and what would change based on that. Which is primarily what I think we're working towards. What's on that board up there that Adam wrote out, which goes position by position. And I don't have it with me, I misplaced my copy, but I did print out 6 months and broke it out by category.
See, that's what I couldn't see, so I didn't have, you didn't.
But I don't have a spreadsheet like that because
well,
some of this will be changing because we're not gonna do retired.
I know, that's what I was looking for, so I know that this is obsolete, but there wasn't a replacement for it.
Right. Well, I had printed out directly from QuickBooks based on payroll types. And I couldn't do it for each employee because there's information that's included in QuickBooks in those reports. It's not for public information.
I understand.
And I don't have that report anymore. Do you remember what I'm talking about? But it broke out how much was public works and like what was salary. I think I gave away on that.
But we didn't see anything like that.
Well, it was passed out at the last meeting. But it wasn't included in this packet.
Well, I didn't have it to look at. I'm just telling you what
Right.
some of my concerns were.
Well, it's kind of a moving target because right now your payroll costs are down because you haven't been replacing people.
I know, but assuming we
And-
do, and it's. Of course, Allison is gonna leave, but her costs have been fairly negligible of late. So if we replace, it depends on who we replace and for how much. But since personnel costs based on the fact that we don't have anyone to help Scott. And so we're definitely gonna need somebody, and I don't know what's gonna happen in public works.
Or code enforcement.
And then. I'm not sure, and this is not a popular topic, but I feel as though. In the last meeting, the discussion about public works salaries was we wouldn't. Be able to hire anyone from out of town if we didn't have these higher rates, but. For the people who actually work, not the manager, but for the other people, we have. To my knowledge, we always hire local people. And it concerns me that the salaries, that Leslie increased the salaries to an amount that I believe is very disproportionate to. The rest of the valley and so that's another concern I have that we haven't. And that's a board concern, not necessarily your situation, because you simply created a budget that reflects even down people, so we have a much lower personnel cost this 6 months than we may have. But even so, the percentage numbers, even the way they are, for 74% of our total general fund budget would be going into personnel and professional services. That seems high, and 58% in the water and sewer fund. So those are for budget purposes. I'm not sure that I agree with all of this.
I hear what you're saying.
And
I mean, I don't know what you would recommend, but
Well,
again,
I found the arithmetic or I don't know if it's just because you changed, but it's like where you had a number, a line item and an amount in a profit and loss statement that we looked at last time. And now going down, the other numbers are all the same, you know, we basically, we lost this and it's a small amount. But I don't know where all this happened when you changed the formatting or what you did or didn't do. I just don't understand, but it looks like some things were lost unintentionally and others intentionally because of our
right,
recommendation.
so these things that start with others are things that technically aren't even categorized.
But then how do we know, since they were in the profit and loss statement? How do we know where this number went, or if it did go anywhere?
Well, the number is still there in the actual accounts, but it's not included in the budget.
But in
Part of
the budget, when
accounts.
you look at what it shows, it doesn't show that at all. I'm just asking, where did it go?
Right, it's not in the budget. That $260 isn't in the budget. Neither is the 520, that would be the double representation. Because it was an uncategorized expense, and I don't remember. Since it's been over a week ago. I'm sure I looked at it and I realized it was something that was probably not. That was gonna be replicated.
Stop.
I understand, Mayor, and with that in mind, I just want to suggest that, anything that has been removed from the budget that you feel should be in it, let us know, we'll put it back in. And same with the, with that grant, we talked about it for a minute there, but then we moved on. I think you have a good point, though, it makes sense to, we don't have to spend the money this year just because we put it in the budget, but if we don't put it in the budget, we can't spend the money for that grant. Do you guys want us to put that grant into the budget for this year?
Not if it costs us $50,000 in matching funds,
We will.
then no.
And plan for it. for next year.
I have two questions about process. If we approve this supplemental budget, could this entire packet be released to the public?
That was my plan.
So all these laws,
That's up to you guys. I think Lisa had attached those because she thought they would be good for your reference. And that's something for us to talk about, is how, if you want those attached to the budget that we release, or if you want to just keep those for your reference.
and then like, I have no idea what a schedule of revenues, expenses and changes in net position, budget and actual non-GAAP proprietary fund type, water and sewer fund for the year 2021, or rider looking at.
That was a reference.
So is that gonna go out to the public?
Well,
It looks like
it's
a lot of-
already out in the public. It was part of the C21.
But will it go out in the
Um,
supplemental draft to the public? Because I think if I can't read this, which I can't read this, then I don't know why anyone else is expected to understand. And because I can't read this, I'm hesitant to approve it, because I'm like, I have no idea.
What part can't you, the
That whole
attachment?
sentence I just read, I don't know what that is, but also. I had naively thought that we would receive a budget that was something I could put next to the draft budget that we had just worked on, so I could even say, oh, that number's not double, or that number is double plus 25%. And I suppose that's on me. I should actually keep those papers that we had last time, and the time before, and the time before, and the time before, but I don't keep them. I think I should, so that I can make those comparisons, but I don't know if
So this,
$467,000 in sales tax or $800 and is double what we spent and looked at and talked about. So,
these numbers in this column did come from that worksheet. It
Mhm.
wasn't from the previous budget. It was from that worksheet where I printed out the 6 month actuals and took it times 2.
so then my other question about process is, if we approve this and it goes out to the public and we have a public hearing, and the public or I decide I want to change 10 things, what's the process for that?
Yeah,
So there will be a meeting after the public hearing at which you will act on any suggestions.
And we'll say we need to change
And then you can.
this,
approve
this and that.
For the sake of process, if there's things you identify in the public hearing. It would be better from my perspective, if you don't come to the next meeting and say, what about these 10 things? Because then you have to have another meeting after you tell me what you want.
Then I think what I need is this. And unfortunately, I need the worksheet that we were working off of. And then I need to go home for 3 days and compare things before I would feel safe approving these.
and you're looking for is it the budget versus actual worksheet, or?
I'm looking for the thing that you made that have the times too.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
You have a copy of that?
I think I actually have a copy of it.
So Adam, are you saying, which would make a lot, very meaningful for me, if the numbers you'd be working from would be the year end, based on the profit and loss? So we look at what we actually spent over the last 6 months, and then in the profit and loss column, it has a projected for year end. But you see that projected for year end has other costs.
Right, it has
That's
to
the
be,
problem.
it has to be looked at line by line.
Then, because that's what caused all of these questions, you know, I began, and I have a list of them of the things I couldn't find just because there was no way to get from here to there.
So do you have that list?
Well, we talked about different things. We talked about, for instance, and originally
I think
I,
you're saying things that were in that.
But I didn't even know a week ago that I've never heard anybody in this room use the word proprietary funds.
It's in your audit.
So then we need to be pursuing education as trustees to actually know what that means, because I don't know what that means.
So that's in response to the enterprise information that I included the pages from.
And
So
again,
because you're not an enterprise fund, you can't say that that's an enterprise fund. So they started calling it a proprietary fund because it still is being operated as a regular business.
but, and then this is somebody's career. And we're supposed to know what this means. And I don't, so I know what the worksheet means, and I know what that means, because I'm like, oh, this is spending money on this and that. But I don't know terminology. I don't know the difference between an enterprise fund and a proprietary fund. I don't know what non-GAAP means. I don't know. I do know that the very last page says violation is malfeasance removal, which I assume means that if we're approving stuff that we don't know or trust or understand, that we're in violation. I don't,
This is
I
just the
don't know.
local government budget law.
Right,
This
and
is
we-
what I have to, that's what I have to operate according to.
I don't know what this entire page of utilities is and why it's in our budget, because it's not on our worksheets. But I get the impression that I need to know all of that.
So I don't think when we present the amended budget, that we should include this other information. I think we should only present the amended budget. I think that's what.
So you're talking about the notes in the budget, but not this from the code, from the town code, and not this from the state.
I
no, the town code stuff, I don't think it should be attached to the budget. I think it should be.
No, that was
available
for your information,
Right.
because of the question that was asked at the last meeting.
Right.
Of whether or not you needed to be an enterprise fund for the water and
Right.
sewer, which. I mean, there's no legal requirement that you be an enterprise fund other than what it says in your code.
Right,
So is there a requirement for you to follow your code?
right. So this, I think, is for us as the board to look at, but it doesn't need to go out to the public, but if somebody has a question about it, it's nice to have it available to the public. And say, here, you can read about why we made this decision. And then the one that you had that,
The audit,
the audit, if that's in here,
it's these last pages. So that's where these numbers came from. Because Elaine kept saying we should go back to actual
so
numbers.
it's these ones.
Yeah.
So this is the, this came from the audit, is what I'm looking at here.
Right.
Okay.
So that gave me my beginning balances.
For 2020, but it's from 2021.
That's was the basis for column one of the budget.
So is that what-
Anyway.
So why?
Column one.
Would there be?
Which?
Oh,
The 2020.
yeah, that's why we put that there. It was just to show the basis for where those numbers came
So
from.
will there be a requirement to?
That was one reason.
Did you finish your question? Are you trying to formulate a question?
I'm trying to say that, so this, what from the audit. That's actually not attached to the supplemental budget, or no, it's just an explanation for us about why we're making decisions we're making.
Right, and it references this column, which I have taken to these summary totals from the audit,
All right,
because Elaine had asked if we could go with the audited numbers
okay, so
for
this,
2021. So
so
this is
this,
what's in the audit.
okay, so the audit information and the other ordinance kind of our rules, right, things, that's kind of separate from the budget as information, somebody wants that information. Okay, so it doesn't have to be.
But you might wanna look at it before you look at the 2022 audit, because what this shows, and this was true in 2020, this page, is how you weren't making your decisions or spending your money based on your budget. Which is what we're trying to avoid.
Right,
Scott, you have your hand.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to, mention about the proprietary fund, that whole thing. Lisa had actually wanted to include an explanation of proprietary fund versus enterprise funds, and I had said, let's just, no need to do that, we know that it's the water fund regardless, let's just move on. But anyway, I can see how that ended up being confused, so I apologize for that, but that was, Lisa did want to include that, I was like, nah, don't worry about that.
But even on the report here from the 2021 budget, which is supposed to correlate to column 1, I don't see any numbers that are the same. I mean, I'm looking at the actual I don't even see the beginning cash balance in the report, the schedule of revenues.
Well, each of these are not necessarily the budget. This is prepared and reported by the auditor based on the information. So the beginning and ending cash balances show up on the statement of cash flows for the proprietary fund. And then that last page that you were looking at is what they said, looking at our budgeted original and what the actual was and what our budget.
So we don't need to approve
Nope,
that,
you've already accepted that on.
and we don't need to approve statement of cash flows for 2021,
You've already accepted all of that from the auditor last
which means I don't have to understand it.
year. Well, I wouldn't say that. I would-
Right.
But.
Well, I would say I don't understand.
But when
Including,
you meet with the auditor about 2022, if you have questions, that would be your opportunity.
we don't usually meet with you.
You did in 2021, but not in for the 2021 audit, you did meet with Ken.
I wasn't
Walt
here.
Smith and Bateman Temple. But for 2020, you did not meet with the auditors, so we just gave you a copy.
And for the 10 years previous,
That's
we
good.
did not. But I think that's a good idea.
But I'm anticipating at least the auditor will be on soon, but I would hope you would come in person, but I haven't discussed that with Wendy.
So then if we are starting to simplify this, then we have our notes at the beginning, which is all very easy to read.
And we ended page 5, like that.
Yeah, there's 5 pages of notes.
So I have a question about the enterprise fund.
Okay.
Is this budget assuming that we will become an enterprise fund? That's your name, I don't know the answer to that.
The end of the year.
It depends. So you technically do in the year. With a balanced budget. But you will have to dip into. The CDs that you have set aside, which exceed your 3-month reserve limit.
So the C.
Unless you transfer money in from the general fund. But the assumption still remains that there would be some rate changes. based on the rate study. Which I realize is not totally realistic.
That's why I brought up the rates, because the rate study is not gonna happen in time to affect how we spend our personnel costs for the next 6 months.
But you don't have to wait for the rate study for some pieces of
That's
information.
exactly why I brought it up. that
For example,
I
you pay
think
more to the water and sanitation district every month than you receive in revenue from your sewer customers. So you're inevitably operating at a loss. Which is not a business.
we operated at not a loss for, in the past.
When our rates were raised, our rates were doubled.
I was
What do you
talking
pay?
about,
What you pay,
I was talking about sewer, you're talking about water.
No, I'm talking about with the sewer, our rates were doubled by the water and sand.
twenty about what we actually pay them and what we actually send out for bills.
When they last year raised our rates, it basically doubled. We went from paying $5 and something or another for treatment to around $10 and something or another for treatment. Our costs were by
That's
water
true.
and doubled.
So the reason I brought up personnel rates is the rate study is not gonna happen in time. And if we're happy with paying the rates that we're paying, fine. If we think that there should be some of those rates should be adjusted, this is the time to do it.
Right.
So my opinion.
One of the things we decided to do it last month, and we were looking at and adding figures and we had discussion was how much of the, say, public works money that was being allocated towards water and sand, actually, can be used instead for under our general fund as the public works rather than. Because we were really putting a lot of that, public works putting it under the column of the water and the sewer fund. When actually, a lot of that could be put under the general fund so that it's not showing such a loss on our on our town's water and sewer. This was something we talked about at the last meeting.
Right.
Looking at
But the
this.
situation is still the way it was. I signed a check today for $8,101 of water and sewer costs that are going to the general fund. Every month is like that sometimes. So.
No, because we haven't.
It's a question I'm asking, it's really a board question. Does the board wish to change any of those rates or not?
I think, my own opinion is that we are going to have to raise our rates, we're just gonna have to. And part of our delay is waiting on the rate study so that we can go to our customers and say, here's the results of the rate study. It's not like we're pulling these numbers out of a hat. These are actual real numbers and this is how we're addressing it. But I think, yes, we're gonna have to raise
So
rates.
that begs my question, do we want to continue paying? And it's not a reflection on the people, it's what the board did to make such large increases in the rates. Do we want to continue to pay someone $36 an hour for a very general
So I kind of feel like we're sort of going backwards at this point. I feel like we've worked and worked on these certain things. We've made a lot of hard decisions, added with a lot of information. We have spent what feels like decades in this last year with these discussions. And I felt like as of last month, we made some real progress. And now I feel like the conversation's going back to square one again. And we need to move forward on this. If there are some adjustments that we need to make on this to have things be correct, then we can do that. But we need to present the budget to the public. And then in 3 months' time, we're looking at a 2024 budget. And then that's where we're gonna have more solid numbers. The things about the employees right now, okay, we will find out when we're doing the next budget that, okay, we have less staff money, we've combined these jobs, we've lost this position. Now we picked up an extra $30,000 in staffing because we've eliminated or combined these positions. But those conversations you're wanting to have, I feel, are the one that we're gonna have as we're creating the 2024 budget. And we keep going over these same things over and over again, and we have got to just see if there's anything that's glaringly a problem. Then, okay, let's fix it, but we need to put this as an amended budget, this is not. That we're gonna new one, we're gonna work on in 3 months, this is
Okay,
an amended budget,
got it.
and I don't wanna go back and talk about whether or not we wanna be an enterprise fund, we wanna be an enterprise fund. We kind of made that as an agreement that this is what we're looking at, and so we're going to work towards that. We understand we're gonna have to raise our rates, but we don't know how much until we get the rate study done. I don't wanna keep pedaling backwards and nitpicking this to death, this is a projection based upon what we have seen. And yeah, it's an idea of what we think we're gonna spend. And is it gonna be 100% accurate? No, because just because we spend something in February doesn't mean we're gonna spend it in December. So let's move the hell on with this. I'm not gonna go to another one of these, let's revamp everything. Let's solve the problems that we have right now. We've got a big problem we have to solve, let's solve it. If it's minor little stuff, let's fix these little things and let's put this to the public to vote on. And let's just take all this information that we have and put it towards the 2024 budget. That's when we'll take this information, then we'll have real numbers and real things to deal with. We'll really know, but right now it's all just this constant supposition, and I'm done with it.
Okay, Adam, you have your hand up.
I guess I agree. I'm not interested in having a philosophical or decision-making conversation about the budget. I think the philosophy that we decided on was to basically double the P&L for the first 6 months. So just for me to be clear, again, I could probably go through line by line and probably do it pretty quick and have people point out flaws or not. But I don't know what everybody else wants to do. And I could approve a simplified version without all this other stuff. If I can go through it by line. And I can do that on my own or with y'all right now. All right, so the very first number is the beginning cash balance. And that's taken from the bank statements. There's no dispute about that.
Taking from what we have in the bank.
Okay.
What page are you on now?
I'm looking at page 1 of the budget and I'm referencing it to page 1 of the profit and loss with the ×2 column, which is right there. So I'm comparing the two.
Okay.
So we have our committed funds, which isn't in the profit and loss that I see, but I think we've probably agreed that we're doing 3% Tabor, 3 months reserve. I don't know about this deductible.
That's like, if you had a claim, you'd have to come up with 1,000.
Okay, and then this 5,000 for the burial is the money we decided to move over to the cemetery.
That's the balance that's in the burial account.
Okay, so we have to hold that as a
Right.
committed fund.
And the next line, the
Got it.
12,245 is what we.
Okay. So if we came down to we needed $4,000 more, we could probably make another motion to make that 8,000 instead of 12,000, but whatever. So total committed funds,
Well, no, because the 12,245 was based on,
the money we owed.
well, the money that you had collected. That you had pledged would go to the natural burial ground, but that was never deposited. in the
Right,
account.
but that's a reimbursement. So if we could only reimburse 2/3 of that.
So you actually have them.
Okay,
It should have been deposited in the account all along.
So I just want to interrupt long enough to ask a question. And that is in the, when we talk about fund balances, Are you saying that the amounts that we have in CDs are not reflected in our cash balances?
They are,
Yeah, that's what I thought. So the reserves, which are the CDs, are in, all the money we have is in this number, is that including our CDs?
in the beginning, cash balance, yes.
For the general fund. Okay,
And for the water and sewer.
but that's not in that 554, that would be in the water and sewer budget.
Right.
Okay.
The 554 is what's. general fund.
Okay, so then going back to our profit and loss statement. For the first 6 months, you've got 11,600 for property tax, and that got bumped up to 13,433, which is not ×2. Is that an accurate calculation?
Yeah, because you receive most of your property tax
And
in the first 6 months of the year.
but we'll still
And
get
that's
more,
based on the mill levy times the NAV.
so we still will get more.
Yeah, but it's only gonna be like $1,300.
Right, so that's
It's not
what,
gonna be 13,000.
so then that compares to the budget. Everybody tracking that? And that's where we're at. So then next line, liquor license. First 6 months, 197, we're kind of doubling that. But we've got, oh, they're not in the same order.
I don't see where you charge the
Yeah,
bigger
look for
license.
It's in the profit and loss statement.
Well, the next one below property tax and
Oh,
Mine
okay, my
might be-
bad, I totally jumped now. I got super dumbed out there for a second. Alright, specific ownership, 25. So I don't know what that is, or if that seems accurate, but,
that's the money we get from motor vehicle registration.
okay. So you're thinking we'll get another 7, I mean. In our January ×2, it's only $2,000, and here it's $2,500.
Yeah, but I looked at what we had done previously, so it's always more in the second half.
Okay, motor vehicle, so you did adjust, you didn't just go ×2.
But these were incremental adjustments.
Right,
Go ahead.
okay, so motor vehicle 2,700, sales tax 467. Cigarette tax 800, and then profit and loss, it's about 800. Marijuana sales tax is 10,400 in the budget. And it's about that in ×2 of the. Is that a tax that will double? That's a sales tax in marijuana?
Yeah, that's what they collect.
Okay, so probably it'll close to double. So total tax revenue 497. Looks pretty functional. And then down to intergovernmental revenues, highway user tax fund, and on the profit and loss, that's 20. That's 11,000 ×2 basically. So on the profit and loss ×2, that's 22,000, and then the budget, it's 23.
They send me out a notice in the fall telling me what they anticipate.
And they anticipate 23.
That's what they said was 23,177.
Works for me. Mineral tax 0. Special marijuana tax, we have in the profit and loss 3,100, and in the budget it's 4,000.
That's a revenue that's collected through the state. And again, in the last 6 months of the year, it tends to be higher.
Okay, I can live with
So
that.
I adjusted it up just a little bit.
So total intergovernmental 27,000. And we have, is that even a line in the profit and loss, total governmental,
Yeah, it's 25,060.
where is that?
Right about here. on the page.
Okay. So we're some, okay. Okay. Licenses then,
So I took that back to the 3,200
great,
because we only send out business licenses once a year. At the end of the month.
400 on liquor license. Got it, okay. 3,000 marijuana license, got it,
We only issue
once a
one.
year, yeah. Building permits, 630. Probably legit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many licenses you typically issue,
That could be zero for
right?
from now on. Or not doubled at least. Land use permit,
Those are like conditional use permits.
so that could also not double, but it's not too bad.
And the next one is the question that kind of. It had something to do when I looked up what that 260 was for.
Well, that's just an expense. Okay. So total licenses and permits in the budget is 8,000. And then the profit and loss is more like 8,000 since we're not gonna double everything. More like the first 6 months. Okay. Total court revenue. You have us at. What is it? $280 in the profit and loss. Is that right?
Yeah. So the 1,500 was based on an estimate from Allison, but I don't know what she was thinking.
Well, I wouldn't care if we changed that to 500 in the budget, but. I don't care if we leave it at 15 either.
I mean, typically that court revenue would be fees or fines that you would receive.
Mhm. Does anybody have an opinion about that?
And I know last year we got a pretty hefty sum because Heather tripled.
There's go back. To the early together.
But we kept the bond portion, but the deposit we had.
There's, to my knowledge, not any big dollar citations out there right now.
I have no.
I think that it makes sense to reduce that number.
Okay, let's change that to 500 on the actual budget draft from
Okay.
1,500. So total grant revenue.
But that's based on the grants. We've been reimbursed and it's based on. A potential reimbursement for. Some of the town hall structural. And the 2 sales tax grants that we got from the county. And I think
So
What
you,
was the cog
the
grant?
COG grant, that's my looking.
so you expect $27,000 in grant
In
revenue?
revenue.
Yeah.
Right. Other revenue. 320 for deposits and penalties.
It's like interest,
Is that like late fees? Or?
no interest on the bank account.
14.6 rent, that'll double,
Yeah.
pretty clear.
Should be.
240, what's other rental income? Chairs and stuff?
Chairs and tables.
Okay. Cemetery lot sales is not gonna double because we don't have any,
We don't have any for sale.
we don't have any for sale. Is that right?
So we spend.
We have
That
nothing.
is, you know what, that's almost right, although somebody had recently bought the other 3/4 of the lot that they had already owned. And there was an issue, they made the payment online, there was an issue tracking it, we just figured out how to resolve.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, that alone was a $950 payment. So that one. And Lisa was not privy to that, we just figured out they actually made that payment yesterday. So that one we can, I mean.
So are
there's
you
that-
saying we
there's
would be
that.
having pre-sale? You think that number should stay?
Well, it seems like there's some. Well,
It seems like we're at 2,600 with that in the first 6 months as opposed to 3,300.
so is that enough? You want to change it?
I don't, it doesn't seem like enough to me.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Museum revenue 0.
But potentially could be revenue, but Jim hasn't brought over. receipts.
Okay. 200 on copies. Okay. Special event revenue is basically doubling. We're not gonna receive revenue from special events.
The 4910 is based on the donations that Nick raised.
And they,
Plus, there was something for the kids festival.
and all that came
That
in
was it.
July as opposed to June.
Well, no, some of it came in June.
So should we lower that
No, because that's based on the 4900 is
actual?
what we actually received.
Okay,
Because I did go look up what Nick had generated a bunch of donations.
That's where
And
we're
there
at.
was a kids festival donation that was from.
and what's miscellaneous revenue?
Not exactly sure. What was included.
Maybe we should just keep it at 1,000 instead of 2,000.
Do you know about this?
I think that the charging station, probably goes
Oh.
into miscellaneous revenue.
Okay,
Yep, and we just got some money, another,
all right. Keep that.
And I think it's, I remember talking to you about this a little bit, Lisa, is that part of where that number came from, was the reimbursement from? the-
yeah, there's a mysterious deposit in the bank account for an amount that I don't have a piece of paper for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're keeping it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the reimbursement for not having, the county was supposed to set up, the card readers, when they set up the charging station, they didn't, and then we went back and calculated how much that had cost us and they reimbursed that.
So
I'm pretty sure that that's.
I could change that miscellaneous to the charging station. Spots reflection,
That'd be cool.
that would be clear. Change.
So our new total revenue is actually 585. Because we took 1,000 out of 055 out of.
Yeah.
Total court revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so expenses. Trustee wages looks right. Administration employees, is that all of the employee wages? So you times that by 2. But we're gonna. And that's just for office staff?
Mhm. Yeah, that's me, Allison, presumably the deputy clerk soon.
And the actual numbers included Kyle,
We need to
the
hire,
coding person.
Mhm.
so yeah, we need to hire the code enforcement and the deputy clerk.
And then that'll kind of balance out for having lost Allison and Kyle.
Maybe. Kyle didn't, his was like, 4 months.
Mhm. But he was making more than office and deputy clerk role, I think that it will balance
So
And we might spend less than,
we can spend less than that.
okay, but we need to be able to afford it. Okay. Okay. Cell phone stipend,
It's at the bottom. 70,000. Then I combined the insurance and the employee benefits.
you combined benefits and
Insurance.
that's 85 times 2, 32 times 2, so 63 plus 17, 23, okay. Professional services is bookkeeper, account treasurer, and attorney,
In the judge.
and the judge.
No, the judges.
Oh, just the other
Judges
their own
said-
category.
So that's ×2 for now, and if we want to make adjustments for 2024, that's a later conversation.
Right.
But it's pretty clear. So 224. Okay. Office supplies, 3,400, postage, 620. Printing, 5,000. Subscriptions. Looks pretty low, but it's fine. Professional dues. It's 775, 774. Food ×2. You have it at 1,200, yeah, okay. IT expense, 4,600, it's ×2. Probably right. Code enforcement. That's paying the sheriff,
Yeah, and then there was some equipment
but it's only a,
that,
That's more your.
that's only at 24. Okay, I see. 24, okay. But that also includes paying the sheriff to come over here?
It does.
yeah, but we don't get it. They haven't.
Yeah.
Travel expenses is at 67.
So that I went with what we spent because. Like Miguel's, he gets annual certification. Most of the, and like Scott,
But we didn't double that, it's less than double.
yeah, I went with more what in line what we'd actually spent, because we only train. There isn't anybody left to train for the staff, but that could change.
Right. Legal notices. Office equipment. How did you pay for this? Owl,
They came out of IT expense.
insurance. Is not doubling. To the
We only
third
pay
pay,
that once.
the deductible is 0 on the profit and loss. Gas propane. Is gonna go up in the winter, right? But I guess we already paid some in January and February.
Right.
Custodial trash and recycling, does that include Miguel and the dumpsters?
Yeah.
So that's on top of Miguel's regular,
Yeah, we had hired somebody else, for example, we hired Scott. to do that job.
yeah, so we could double that.
And the recycling, like we did recycle like some computer equipment. That's what we did.
Telephone and internet's gonna double. Water Within there. What is? Website development. Bank fees, 330, see that out there. Tax collection fees. I mean, it's all,
So that's just.
there's so many lines,
Yeah, it's like 3% of what we get in taxes, so because we reduced the property tax rate.
and then we have this miscellaneous. 1,300, that's an expense. Somehow, yeah, none of that's really. So I can live with that 56,662 on total town hall expenditures,
Which is a little bit less than the double
right, because of the.
changes.
Mhm. All right, court. Contract with the judge, doubled, and that's our total cost. Live with that for
Yeah,
now.
we had added some categories before we did the Heather triplet, and we did the Carl Cole case. We had to hire a court clerk because Allison, who's usually the clerk, was also a witness.
What are the capital projects in the village? I mean, I know they're not here, but I'm just looking.
Water and sewer capital project is the very last page.
Is that all there is in the way of capital projects?
No, they're down here at the bottom. If we keep going, we'll hit them. Page or two.
So for total operations expense. We add. The grant project cost, what's that, 13,
That was the Ready Grant. And there was. Another spent for. The line.
all right, so 13,672. Plus 14,000. Plus. 3,400. Plus 56,662. Plus. 224, 180. Is. Probably total expenses, not including the grant project, cause I get 311. 914, as opposed to 298, 968. But I bet if I subtracted that $13,000 grant. I'd have
I
298,
have to look at the spreadsheet, but I'll make check that.
yeah, that's not adding up,
Well, because I was looking, the total town hall over here is 311.
that's what I got.
So I think that we didn't adjust them to drop that to 290. That's what I'll check.
So you'll confirm that total expense and put the right number in?
Yeah.
You got a good note on that?
Check that out.
Cause yeah, we can't be also putting out a draft that doesn't add up. It's Elaine and Warren. Will let us have it. So then Public Works. Employees is. Public Works employees on the budget is 152. And on the. Profit and loss times 2 is 110.
I think I was adding in
Probably adding some of Miguel's percentage.
Let's see the number of the operator responsible charge.
And then the line under that is 13,000 and has no title.
Benefit is the third one. And we don't have the general fund support.
Oh, we added up all of those and got the 152. But that's different.
Well, now it shows there is the 152. This should be 110.
Ooh. I would say so. What's that 13,000?
That had to do with the general fund. I didn't get to finish those research because I was trying to get this out. But it might be. If you look on the ×2, there's the payroll expense that's all the way down there at the bottom. Which has to do with how QuickBooks was originally set up. There's the 13,426. But it really should be up here with the personnel expense because it's the employer's share.
Where is it in the profit and loss?
If you go all the way to the end of the general fund budget on page 4. 3 lines above the total expense.
Okay,
That's the employer share of the payroll.
but that also includes office,
Yes,
so it shouldn't necessarily be in public works,
right,
but it
but
should
it
be.
all flows in QuickBooks to the same account.
Okay.
Can't quite figure out how to split that out. Like I said, I didn't take the time to do that on Thursday because we needed to get this out so the board could have.
And where in the public works? Or where's the general fund line as it relates to public works? Don't we have maybe that's in the general fund office administration? It public, oh, I'm thinking water and sewer.
Right.
Okay. Okay,
Cause usually I take the.
Okay. So in that personnel expense. And total personnel costs, we're at least removing 42,000. And really, we should at least move the 13,400.
Well, we should split it and I would probably do.
But half of that,
It's probably about half and half.
so you would add half of that to the expense of the office administration? Okay. You got a good note on that? Which is
Payroll expense.
gonna be,
And then this would change. Payroll expense.
so that's gonna be 6713. As an expense.
Right.
So then. Oh, well, we have payroll expenses under that. For 30,000,
That's just the insurance and benefits.
then we should get rid of the word payroll expenses. And then the profit and loss, where are we? Where is that in the profit? Insurance plus benefit is about 30, okay. We've got Andrew. For consultants,
Yeah, the 7680 is what.
have already paid? As a
Well, no,
consultant?
we've already paid him 3840. I
Okay.
doubled it.
Training, okay, so it's more like. One, it's probably closer to that 152 then.
For the whole, girl expenses.
Yeah, because we're gonna cut it and. 13,426. Reduce that one. Well, you know where that changed? I added back in 70% of the gals.
I was, yeah, that's what I thought.
That's why it changed to the 152.
Okay.
Just looked at my note, I got 70/30 off to the side.
Okay,
So that's what I did, I added 70% of that, because we were not running any of his pay. So that's why that one.
and that becomes 152?
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna add 40 to 585.
Right.
So then I get 201,747. After the payroll expense adjustment.
Which I might adjust because it's not on.
Okay. So whatever that is, you're gonna make that number add up and be correct. And it's probably gonna be 202 or 3 instead of 208. Okay. Maybe 600, that's equipment tools times 2. I guess I wish I knew what we had budgeted. But, okay. Supplies times 2. Facilities times 2. Utilities times 2. Total 17,500. I can live with that. Vehicles, no purchases right now. Is that like road maintenance and other supplies? You have it at 2 trillion.
Repairs and maintenance.
So that got higher than the profit and loss, but I'm okay with that. Auto insurance, times 2,
I had $1,000,
yeah.
that was towards the repairs.
Makes
It
sense.
has that, when it has that other, it didn't actually get categorized.
So I can live with all that. Unless you wanna add $500 to gas, but we're already, it is just times 2.
Yeah.
Road operations. Supplies times 2, is supplies like road base and stuff?
Yeah, gravel.
Yeah, and they haven't gotten any.
Do we need it?
Yeah.
Yeah, So I think we should raise that to 1,000 or more. 'Cause we do need to take care of some roads. 1,000, 1,500, 2,000,
I'd say 2,000,
let's do it.
it's an issue.
You got that, Lisa?
Yeah, 2,000 for that.
Signs, whatever. Tourist signs, 500, I don't see that.
It was actually in a different category, but when I do that, highway user tax fund report, we can report that $500,
What's road maintenance services
repair and maintenance.
so who are we paying to do that?
That went to Scopeland or something.
I would not double that then.
Okay.
I could see like maybe when we had to repair the line or something,
Now, when we have a road cut, that's,
yeah.
Yeah.
But since we're tight, I
yeah,
could live with that being $6,000.
Yeah, we're kind of done, we've kind of been there, done that.
Good, 6,000?
Okay.
Snow removal. I don't care,
If only it would snow.
right?
It's really gonna snow like 3 feet on Thanksgiving.
And that HUFT should double, is that right?
Yeah, that's what we paid to Squash County,
Okay,
which is less than what we paid last year, but we haven't paid them very much.
and streetlights is the REC,
Sorry, those rates are supposed to be going up, I thought. Well, we don't give the county our entire highway user tax.
Just want to pay those.
is streetlights like a REC bill?
Yes,
So it looks like that total road operations is now more like 13,243.
no, because you increased the gravel,
By 2,000, but then only subtracted 4,000. Or 4,400.
so it's more like 15.
Okay, alright. Almost done, yeah,
Okay, doing a good job here.
where are we at?
Parks and roads, operating
Right away is,
Supplies, 605. What kind of supplies is that, like?
I
Water,
think for
water
the
hoses and stuff?
landscaping,
Grass seeds and
So we're kind of,
compost spreading
It's
parts.
under parks and roads.
and that's the type of thing that I'd like to see what our original budget was for, but I don't really care, and we're
well,
mostly,
I think you should definitely look at it only to 2024.
yeah.
Let's see here, original budget for operating supplies. Actually, you know what, this is the most recent version of the budget. Are you asking about what was passed last year or the most recent?
What was passed in December?
So, under those R&M services, we went from 10,468, we dropped that down to 6,000. I would like to see some of that difference of the money. I think we really need to, under weed abatement. We're actually required by the county, I believe, to do control of weeds. We're supposed to have a weed board, we're supposed to be doing a certain amount of weed abatement. I think we really need to put, and when you see like Gretchen out doing all that weed whacking this spring, that should have been out of the weed abatement rather than just, public works. She was out there with the weed whacker doing all along the sides of the road. That's actually weed abatement. And so there should be money in that because that also shows to the county and the state that we're addressing toxic weed issues. So you know, I think we should make sure that gets, that even if it's 500, I mean, it's already been spent for. For out there and the whole crew out
But
there.
that is something, if you
That's
go with
why
the
I-
contract.
That's why I would like to put that all out for bid. I think we're spending a lot.
Right.
We could save some.
But, you know, I saw her.
Do you want
You
to
could make a
500 or
contract
1,000?
just for that.
You know, I think at this
Exactly.
point, under the lead abatement, I think, you know, 500, I mean, we really should be spending more, but. I know they've already went through and did a whole bunch of weed whacking along the roads and everything, so we should account for that they actually did that work.
All right,
And then also. I think we need to come back for the tree removal and tree replacement and put 500 in each of those categories. Since we kind of saved 4,000 off of that other category, let's just add a little bit over in here.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Did you
And
find
I
out?
think
what
we're
the-
gonna do that this year, yeah.
Oh, not actually on this year, no. So the tree replacement, no, we're not gonna do that this year. But maybe the tree removal, we should have 500.
Right.
Okay.
The equipment, that involved a trailer or something also, right?
Yes,
So we probably don't need to double that. Or is that what we actually spent? 57.23.
No, that's double what we did.
Let's not do that. Let's keep that at 3,000 or 4,000. 4.
and. Adam, did you have the budget that you originally passed pulled up? What was the line item that we were looking at?
R&M supplies under parks and roads.
2,000 was originally.
So maybe that should be 1,000 instead of 700.
Oh, hang on, I'm sorry, actually, never mind.
So you're saying increasing the water for parks?
No, going back to the top where she had 700 in the budget.
Okay.
Our budget we passed in December actually said 2,000. So I was just suggesting we make it 1,000 instead of 700.
Okay,
And then equipment, we made 4,000 instead of 5,700. Cause we bought a trailer and we're not gonna necessarily buy another trailer. And then you made weed abatement 500, tree removal 500, tree replacement 0. Water 278 works, electricity 452 works, miscellaneous 600 works, so total parks is whatever that became.
One other item of note under Parks and Roads, operating supplies. In the original budget, we budgeted at $2,000.
Mhm.
And. Oh, sorry, that's the one that you. Did you ask about repair or road maintenance supplies or operating supplies?
We don't even have operating supplies in the budget draft. So what was R&M supplies in that?
Operating supplies is under parks and right away.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the page before.
Oh, yeah, that's the last one. Okay, before. Both of those were originally budgeted at $2,000.
So I would be okay making operating supplies 1,000 and R&M supplies 1,000.
Under parks and right.
Yeah. And then those other changes.
So that brings that total close to 10,000.
Right.
so I'd like to question why we went from the water for parks, we went to $8,800 to $270.
There was that break in the line. That was on the meter. And we made the town pay.
The cemetery,
Well, I had a couple of notes about that. Gretchen has brought some potential expenses for expanding the cemetery. like a fence. Maybe a survey, maybe not, extending the road. But I don't have a good idea of what amount she's really talking about.
Roads are expensive. They were just talking about getting.
So whether you wanna do that in 2023, or if that's gonna be a 2024
I
plan.
think it'd be 24. More than likely, because they have gone out and looking for bids for, Kenny as opposed to. The.
What about-
guy. But the gravel stuff is gonna cost a lot. They were worried about the arroyos, not, putting something in, and having the arroyos. With flash flood cuts, washing it all down, you can see that. And they wanted to be able to get a plan together for the conference, now that they're selling them separately. So that they're not in arroyo. There's a lot of work to be done, I think they spent too much on that survey, because the survey's been done,
Oh, it has,
yeah,
oh, okay.
well, not the little aircraft they going over, but they did the survey years ago. There's pins,
Okay.
it's just. Maybe getting an engineer to figure out where the water's gonna go.
More like a locate on those pins, right?
Yeah. So it'd be like
Yeah,
that.
so, cause
I don't know a whole lot about it, cause I'm not there.
so all of that would be the plan, so the only thing that's on here,
But we do need to open up a certain amount, but the biggest expense is gonna be the road. Just a
Mhm.
short little road just to get in there. At this point,
I have no objection to putting like a planning item at $3,000, doesn't mean they have to spend it, but at least we could
okay,
maybe start laying out a road or
yeah,
something.
so it's 3,000 in 2023.
Uh-huh,
And then a note to add it to the plan. So the only other thing that I had added
A
in
note to
was,
add what?
$600 under administration, which was for some software.
mhm.
Because we currently track the burial plot information in paper files, which Kyle went through and cleaned up, but he did find a software package that he was estimating was around $600, where we could have just a database of just the cemetery. Where we could look something up without having to,
go through files and files,
right,
maps.
while somebody's standing at the counter wanting to know about anybody. Is in grandma's plot or not?
I do definitely see value to that, I think we still need it.
Right.
Once we've got somebody else in the office that can do the thing.
So that's where the
it's gonna be
600 came
powerful.
from, is from that software.
But with that said, we could, for the sake of clarity, move that to IT expense.
Well, no, I think it should stay with the cemetery.
I don't
Because
think that
it's
hurts
specific.
to be where it is. So I don't know what our.
So that total cemetery would change to 3,945. I didn't double the dues because we pay those on an annual basis.
Well, it's already at 1,600 and we just added 3,000, so it seems like it'd be up to over 40.
I think it's 16. Oh, you're looking at the double.
I'm looking at the 2023 budget. I wasn't even looking at the profit and loss anymore.
Well, my total cemetery on that shows 945.
On the budget? We have 345 plus 600 plus 945. Oh, I'm sorry, I was adding the total. So yeah,
Yay.
3945.
It's 5 o'clock.
Okay, so I don't know what our subtotal town hall and public works just became, but it's probably pretty close.
Yeah,
Within 10,000 of that.
Yeah, the drone survey thing is gonna be like $2,000 or $3,000 for the cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I actually thought it was a waste of money, since it's already for the survey. They are out there.
Yeah, I asked you guys to approve that, I believe the last meeting or the meeting before, for $5,000. Since then, I've talked more to Gretchen and she, just what you're saying, Kim, she said that after looking into it more, she doesn't think that we really need the survey, so we're not doing it.
Alright,
Executive decision to spend that money on
So
better.
the land acquisition is what it is. If we go down to the excess efficiency of revenues, that number is gonna change now. And does that mean that's how much money we spent more than what we brought in?
Right, revenues over.
So that could become. I mean, that could become $10,000 or $7,000 or something like that.
I don't think it will be that much difference.
Okay, but even so. This goes back to that conversation that Elaine keeps bringing up that. To me, if we're only spending even $10,000 more than we're bringing in. That to me translates to we're only depleting our available cash by $10,000
Correct.
as opposed to 200,000.
Right.
So we're doing pretty good for pulling ourselves out of a hole.
Yes,
Okay. So total available resources is our beginning cash plus our revenue. Total expenditures is that number, should be the subtotal town hall.
it's a subtotal town hall, public works, and the land acquisition costs.
Got it, okay. So net available resources at year end. Is 375, and that's not including our reserves,
Or the committed fund
so you add back the committed funds,
to get the 552.
alright. So can we cross that? We'll,
Yeah, I'll
we'll
have-
approve that in a minute, or should we just approve it now? I make a motion, we approve the supplemental draft budget for the general fund.
Is there a second to that motion?
So you're approving it for publication,
For whatever, for draft to be presented to the public.
right? You're not actually approving. the
Correct, correct,
I'll second the motion.
So,
you know how to
to
work
be
it out.
clear, this is a draft, or is this is just the draft?
Correct.
Publication?
Yes, that, this would be presented to the public.
That's what was on the agenda, the approval of the draft. Supplemental budget for public review, so we need to. Here to set up the date for that.
The 21st, I thought.
Yeah, it's very set the date.
Yep. Yeah, it's the 23rd.
21st. Okay.
I see you're still talking. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna vote nay, but it won't affect it. It's just that I'm still, I've never understood. I know we've gone through this.
Okay, so, I move we adjourn.
But wait, you have to still do the water and sewer.
You have to do those.
Water and sewer.
That was just the general fund.
Water and sewer building. So on the beginning cash balance, again, that comes. It's carried forward from 2022. And just as a note, the 79,208 is not 3 months reserves, it's the total of the CDs.
Okay, what is 3 months worth of reserves?
Well, it's 30% of the operational expense, which in this case,
It's 25%.
is like 52,000.
So we could take. We could increase available resources by $20,000 if we want.
Yeah.
I think we should do that,
So you want to take that back to the actual 3 months?
yes.
Take it from where?
from the CDs.
she's got this 3-month reserve. Is 79,000, but that 79,000 is actually what we have in our CDs. Whereas 3 months worth of reserve is more like 52,000. So I'm not even saying we should spend that money, I'm just saying,
It should go into the budget,
yeah,
okay,
so we can increase available resources by $27,000 or something.
I misspoke, right? Divided by 3, and I should have divided by 4, because
Right.
it's 3 months.
Yeah,
So it should be 44,000.
okay, so even more, so that's $25,000, 35,000 that we would increase available resources.
But I'll do the actual count.
Okay.
Because it's based on what we come up with the operations expenses.
good idea.
It's almost like 125,000 in available resources.
Right.
Okay,
So the 0.5% sales tax is 0 here, but you'll see I added some money from the capital project fund at the bottom of the revenue, so you won't see that on your worksheet. And again, I just took 10% of the 109,320. We're projecting that we're gonna get from revenue.
and where did you add that? Okay, so wait. Here it says 0 in the budget
Looks
draft.
like I added it in there twice. Yeah. I have 2 lines, sorry. So we should add total tax services and revenue fees 99,382. We should add in 10% is what the ballot question allows you to take. Scott didn't catch that either.
I'm blanking out. What are you saying?
So you'll see total operations revenue 109,320,
Mm-hmm.
and then I put 10%. I doubled that because I also have the 10% above that.
Before that, okay, so that
That changes our total.
by, okay. And where is the other? That 10% came out of the 0.5% sales tax,
No, it comes from the ballot question,
but it comes out of the 0.5% sales tax increase.
right?
And
That
where,
went to the capital projects fund, so it's a transfer in.
so that 90,000 or the 90% left over is going now into,
The capital projects,
which said 0 for, is that expenses? Where does that show?
it's the last page,
Mhm,
it has its own budget.
okay. So I showed 0.
Not sure.
Oh,
Capital,
that was the
Oh,
beginning
great.
cash balance because we only opened the fund in January.
So what the ballot question said was. We would take. 10% annual allowable income from grants to said enterprises be redirected to a capital project fund. And then it says in here,
I see. So-
it's from the ballot question. Without reading the whole. Thing. And even reading the whole thing, I think it's a little confusing.
So where is that money showing up at?
It's the last page,
This is the capital projects fund,
beginning cash.
but it's
balance,
10%. For the enterprise fund, it's 10% of the revenue.
Right, so there's
So
82,
90% of your revenue has to be generated by.
Taxes.
and 82,000 for the sales tax revenue. Would actually. Will change a little bit since you double input the 10,000.
No. The 0.5% comes off that spreadsheet I give you every,
So that 82,000 is our capital.
that's the beginning balance for the, or the sales tax revenue for the capital.
Okay, alright, so then back to the water and sewer.
Right, so. The two things I changed here, I think, were the hydrant fee because it doesn't actually double.
Okay,
And the tap fee. And up for grabs.
okay. Tap fee is at 2,400. As opposed to up for grabs. That's for water and sewer.
Yep,
I'm fine leaving it 24. Beginning cash balance, committed funds we changed, available resources we changed. 0.5% sales tax says 0. Tap fees are good, system extension fees, whatever. Service fee is for water and sewer,
right.
and it's likely gonna double.
Yes,
Okay.
it's 2 times what we like.
Interest and finance, hydrant maintenance fee, you left and did not double, which is good, other revenue. Total tax, services and fees was 100,000. Plus, we get 10% of that 100,000,
Right,
so it's 110,000.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense.
the one below that 10, 32 weeks ago.
What's this subtotal DOLA debt service?
So that's what we paid to DOLA. For the water loan that was taken out.
And it says,
So I moved that over to be paid out of the capital projects fund.
great, okay. Personnel went way down because we're
That's-
transferring over to
That
general.
37.
fund.
So the balance of that went over to the general. fund.
So we're removing some of this personnel into the general fund.
Because,
Because the ORC water operator,
Okay,
we talked about 30% of his time.
and so
For
that's
water sewer and 70%, that's part of public works.
and is that reflected in this figure?
In this 18,380, yes.
and really, we talked about doing, okay, that's fine. I mean, really, that's 2024. Once we combine positions.
Well. But we did talk about, we might want to do it retroactive, so you could balance this budget.
Yeah, and even though
Right.
the positions haven't been officially combined yet, I think that we can make the argument that.
Well, because Miguel has done some public works, like he fixed the thing in the road up there.
Okay, all right,
My highly technical language.
so you've got payroll expenses. Is. Taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
And that went down because of the 70/30.
Yeah.
Professional services. Fine. Personnel support. Stayed the same,
Yeah, it's double what actual.
and that might go up a little bit because of the 70/30, right? But not much.
Yeah, that's. You're right, because what we take,
Is that worth recalculating?
probably not, because public works, I think we're doing 7.5%.
So subtotal went down significant, which is what we needed to do. Of
But
personnel.
everybody was right.
Liability insurance is not gonna double.
No, because we pay that one.
Extension parts,
We're not doing extensions, we won't.
repairs and maintenance. Is that gonna double? I guess we don't know if
And
that,
equipment and tools, does that need to be, it seems like so many of those things are one-time purchases and
mhm.
do you need to?
Well, a lot of the equipment. Cost was tied to, he bought some. meters.
So that's already been,
He bought some. meters. He's been replacing some meters. As he goes along, because he reads the meters, so he has some idea.
So, I mean, did we buy the meters, does this cost need to be doubled?
We do have to buy the meters,
Or
yes.
you have to still buy.
But I don't think he's bought meters ahead, right, Scotty's buying.
It depends on the project, and we bought some meters in the past, he was putting a meter in.
For the charter school.
Charter school, yeah. He was happy to do that for crazy.
Okay.
But
There's,
yeah, that's one that, there's also there's a generator for one of the
oh, right.
for one of the well pumps that was apparently never installed properly and is not working, may need to be replaced. Expensive batteries for a meter in one of the wells, different type of meter. But yeah, that one I think is. I think we would be best to double that one because those types of expenses come up out of the, I mean, just for the last year here, they have come up out of the blue and always have been pretty expensive.
Well, like 2022, after Ann left, we were just using that contractor. Chad was not identifying and notifying us of things like that. But Miguel, because he's working with it every day.
But we're bringing in 110,000 and spending 176. Which is a $60,000 decrease of our available funds. Is that right?
So the total expenditures is personnel costs. Plus this. Operation,
About 176. And our total revenue is 110.
Yep.
So that's 65,000. Which we would then be pulling from our beginning cash balance.
yes.
So why do RPC utilities go from 580 to over 6,000?
If we're actually paying the electric bill for the house out of the water and sewer fund.
Working attention to it before.
Right,
Paying water, electric bill.
to run the run,
To run the line. So
the
that's
three
good.
wells for the town, or something.
So instead of it coming out of the general fund, it's now coming out of the sewer fund.
Right. As much as possible, and we were able to get the SLB REC to send us through. And I think part of that is also, telephone and internet, there's a CA bill. Except that,
That should come
it's
out.
paid out of public works.
Okay.
Which is in the general.
Yeah, I have just hoping that some of that money could actually go. Cover on a public works or just because we're trying to keep our water and sewer funds so. Tight. How do we have any wiggle room on that utilities charge?
Well, what I did was go through for 2023 and look at actual costs like the insurance. Rather than using the percentage that Leslie was recommending, and actually the actual expenditures are a little less than that percentage. Because she was taking like a percentage of all the town hall supplies, which, I mean, yeah, they do kind of need it. And some people, but not 15%. We could look at that again. I don't know why. Was there a higher bill one of those months? I don't think I have the ×2 spreadsheet for the ones.
So if we didn't change much. Except for that reserve being more accurate.
Right.
Then we're depleting our. Net available resources. To 61,000 instead of 34,000. Which at our draft budget before this worksheet that we did last time, we were like losing like 150 or 60 or $200,000 or something like that.
Yeah. It's 200,
So I think we did pretty good.
I think so too.
So I make a motion, we approve.
So we'll make these changes, I'm just gonna check, so we're gonna change,
The reserves,
right? And I was gonna double. Check. Well, no, we decided we were gonna stick with the equipment. At the 19,920.
yeah, that's what it sounded
But I
like.
think we're not really changing anything unless you want me to look at those utilities and why that went to 63.
Yeah, I think we're just changing the reserve and removing the double 10%
Right,
input.
all I got to,
And then I think we're depleting by.
yeah, it's gonna be closer to 50,
I think 16.
yeah, between 50 and 60.
Okay. And that's way better than negative 180,000.
I like that. So the only thing, if you think it's gonna be a problem, and I'm not saying we should change Adam's motion, but maybe I guess we should let you finish a second and a vote. Before
I withdraw my motion, go ahead.
Is this issue, if you wanna increase your service fee revenue
I
through
want
the
to.
end of the year, okay. That would be the only places, because you do know that you're paying more to water and sand than you're receiving from your customer.
But we can do that anyway, and all that does is add to the revenue,
It would add something to the revenue.
but we don't have to change the budget for that, right?
Well, you would if you did it before the end.
Really?
Yeah.
So, no, you don't have to change the budget every time you raise the fee.
You do if you're gonna raise the fee and spend the money, which you would. You would for this budget.
I mean, we don't have
But
to,
whether you wanna do that, I mean, in reality, you're in August, if you're gonna do that, you wouldn't be able to implement it. Till the last 3 months of the year, maybe it's not worth. I mean, it's better to have that conversation still again in 2024.
I'm fine with that. Okay, so I make a motion, we approve the draft supplemental budget for water and sewer for 2023 for publication for public comment.
I'll second.
Discussion?
And the budget for public, did you really have that? Yep.
Yes,
We did general funds.
we still have the capital fund.
It should go pretty quick.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
I'll vote nay.
So we start with $0, we get 82,000.
So the rest of these are grants.
Okay,
So Scott and I talked through, so the 64,060 is the remainder of what we signed a contract for just CDBG, which was the first 120,000. The grant revenue, wastewater testing and meter install was that funny little grant, nobody knew what it was for like many months, including me. Which was for installing the meter before the infiltration point to test the VOD levels. I don't know where we're at with that project. But we do have a grant we could spend for that, but the grant was actually for 34, but we're pretty clear we don't need $34,000 for a meter like that. We had talked about doing a master water and sewer plan. We haven't identified a grant source for that. But you're gonna need that going into the CDBG sewer extension. I mean, you're just gonna need that master plan for all kinds of reasons. So we haven't identified a grant source for that.
We
right, Scott?
identified it as high priority for this.
We haven't identified a grant source for it.
That's as far as we went.
Right, so that's the revenue side. And the 20,000 was based on an estimate from Leslie's projection. So in the expense side, you see the DOLA debt service, which I moved over. The CDBG sewer extension, the 64,060. The wastewater testing and meter install, the $10,000 because it was a 50% match grant. And I would think that we would want to do that before the end of the year. If it's, I mean, Miguel seems to think it's possible. If we get the meter, we can be done and we could start getting that data, which is part of your negotiation with the water district.
Yeah, that's very important.
And then the,
I thought this grant, am I reading it wrong, was like a 640,000, 600,000?
there was a $600,000 grant,
Right,
but we only signed a contract for the first 120,000.
okay.
And we've spent almost 60,000 of that. So
Okay.
that's the remainder.
Okay.
So I'm showing it as revenue and that we will expend it. And again, the 20,000 for the master water and sewer plan. I mean, I would imagine we could get something to go up.
I make a motion, we approve the draft budget for the capital funds. The draft supplemental budget for the capital projects fund, for 2023 for public review.
For a second,
Sounds like it.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no.
And so I'll get those done tomorrow. And I'll give them stock.
Irina, why are you voting nay?
I know you went through, but for me, a lot of those changes in the general reductions in the general fund, I'm not clear what they're based on. They didn't seem, they seem more, I could not even agree that they were all justified. That was a basic problem. It's not clear to me that we did the best thing when we said just double what you spent as opposed to doubling what was the budgeted amount. Some of the things seem very artificial, just, I'm not sure. Anyway, that's why I voted no.
Would you
I
have-
didn't agree with the
Would you
general
have
fund
preferred
either.
that, would you have preferred that we didn't approve a supplemental budget today?
I'm not understanding the question.
Would you have preferred that we all vote no and not approve a supplemental budget?
Yeah, well, would I have preferred to, whatever everybody wanted to vote was really up to them.
But I mean, if we had all,
Yes, the answer is. It's an issue because we're short of time, which would have caused me to vote yes. I wanted to vote yes. I'm hoping that as a result of the public hearing and whatever happens then with the revised budget, if there is a revised budget. Then I would hope that some of my objections will go away.
If we're done, I move we adjourn.
Second. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
All in favor?
you just put those in my phone instead of.
Oh, you guys, are you all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, good work, everybody.
Thank you, Adam.
It's good work.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Back to Karen.
Oh. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Robin. Oh, really?
I just. Yay! Hey,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna, I know there's policies, there's no alcohol in town hall, but when we actually approve this thing, I'm gonna have to bring in a bottle of champagne.
Yeah, really.
Non-alcoholic grape juice.
Or a bottle of
We'll just-
confetti.
Pass a motion that we can do it today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's